I like salad. Do you like salad?
Hi, I'm Hostion Ho. I'm living in Vancouver, BC, Canada, unceded territory of Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. I'm an immigrant to Canada from China.
Hey everyone, I'm Andrea, coming to you from Victoria, but more importantly known as unceded Akwesasne territory of the Lekwungen-speaking peoples, the Songhees and Esquimalt First Nations, and I am an immigrant from the United States of America. And you're listening to
Canadian Salad.
Canadian Salad.
Hello, everyone. Welcome back to our
Hi,
podcast.
Hostion. Yes,
Hi.
yay.
We are very excited for this week's podcast because we have very special guests, plural.
Yes.
Plural.
And
we
from
have many of them.
From
everywhere.
Representing, everywhere. Whoop, whoop. And this is the last episode regarding love and relationships in Canada. So we're going to talk with some amazing couples, one who is married and one who has been in a long-term relationship. I mean, they're practically married, in my mind, but you know. But yeah,
True.
I'll let each of you want to introduce yourselves. I think let's just go with Ekta and Royce. You want to introduce yourself?
So, hi everyone. My name is Ekta, and I've been in Canada for 9 years now.
Wow.
I know Andrea and Hoshen because we met in university. We did the same master's program, and this is pretty exciting. I haven't done a podcast before, so it's very, very new. I come from a place called Pune, and that's in India. The province or the state, like we call, is Maharashtra. Nothing in India can be a small city based on the population, but I would say it's a smaller city. It's kind of like a Victoria. That's where I'm from.
Hi, and I'm Royce Norona. I am Ekta's partner. I know Andrea and Hoshin through Ekta, and I feel privileged to be here because this is my first podcast too. And I feel like a celebrity. I'm so excited to do this.
You
The
are. You're
privilege
gonna do great.
all
Yes.
mine, all
You're gonna do
ours,
great.
obviously.
I have been in Canada since 2014, April 2014. And I first moved to Toronto, and then when Ekta moved a year later to Canada, she moved to Victoria. So I then moved from Toronto to Victoria.
That makes sense. I mean, how can you not follow Ekta? That just makes sense. Yeah.
Such an amazing human being.
Indeed. Yes.
You didn't have a choice.
And Royce, you're from India as well, is that right?
Yes. Oh, right.
Okay.
Yeah. I am from Mumbai, so the big city in
City
Maharashtra,
boy.
India.
Yeah. Nice.
And so I moved from one big city to another big city at least in Canada, the largest city, and now in Victoria for 9 years. So
Wow.
that's a bit about me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. And our next couple.
I'm very glad to be able to be on this podcast and support my two friends, Andrea and Hoshen. And
Thank you.
my name is Alice, and I came from Vietnam. And I have been here for almost 10 years. We met with Hoshen and Andrea in the same master program at Royal Rose.
Yeah, there's a big theme here, everyone. Like,
Yeah.
we all know each other. So
Through school, if you
this
don't
is our
already
pool
know.
of exactly. But it was the best. It was the best cohort that Royal Roads has ever produced. No offense, everyone.
I agree.
We have one more guest.
Hi, guys. My name is Siby. Thanks for having me on the podcast. And sorry for the little baby here. It's going to be a little bit loud in here, so you will hear him in the background.
That's
But
okay.
thanks for inviting me on your podcast. I was low-key waiting to get the tap to join an episode.
You knew it was coming.
So I've been in Canada for 9 years now. I moved here at the end of 2014 after 8 years in the US. I'm originally from Senegal in West Africa. I grew up mostly in France, southwest of France, where I stayed until high school, and then also lived in the Middle East, in Saudi Arabia for a few years. My dad went to work over there, and that's it about me.
I wanted if both of you can maybe share a brief story about how you met your partner, because a lot of immigrants might come single, and then they meet maybe a Canadian born person, and that's a whole thing. And then some people come and they come with their partner, or they meet a partner who might also be an immigrant. So I know there's different stories and complexities when it comes to those types of relationships. So maybe both of you can maybe give us a brief summary of like how you met and your story.
Okay, so Ekta is from Pune and I'm from Mumbai, but we did our undergraduate program at the same college. So she moved to Mumbai and we were classmates for 3 years while we did our program, but we were just friends. We just had common friends. It was only after we graduated that Ekta was interning in a small city called Goa, which is kind of like the vacation capital of India. And I went there for a vacation. And I knew that my classmate, or my ex-classmate, was interning there. We planned to meet up, and I was there for just a couple of days. And we ended up meeting for dinner. And when we met up at the restaurant, the lights went out, and it was a candlelight dinner. And it was so awkward because we were just friends.
Yeah, we're like, oh, this is turning out to
The
be
mood's
very
like,
romantic.
yeah, someone else is like setting you up. Yeah.
So it
Yes.
was just, I don't know, there were sparks flying, and I think things just developed from there on.
Oh.
We just ended up talking, and it developed into a relationship. And here we
Oh.
are.
Wow.
Oh, that's so cute. It was the candle, not like dinner.
I think so, yeah. Or it was just
Wow.
my face.
Wow. Yeah.
How about Alice and Siby? How do you guys meet?
Yeah, we met in the same program. Obviously, at first we are just friends, right? But I think was progressing from there. At first was a little bit difficult because having a partner from a totally different race is very different and very difficult for me and also for my family to perceive. But the great thing is my parents are very open-minded. From their way of seeing this, it's not about the skin color, the race, the religion, but more about who is the person that you are happy with.
We met in our railroads program, and I've had interaction with Asian culture before, but Asia is big. What made it easier for us is that Senegalese culture, which is what I was brought up with, even though I've lived different countries. That's mostly what my parents have been, raising me and my sisters. Senegalese culture is actually very close to Vietnamese culture, just very similar. There's a lot of similarities, and I think that helped us, in our relationship and at the beginning, and still helping.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I mean, I think to kind of tag into that, being a couple and being an interracial couple, but even like a couple that is here as immigrants in Canada, have either of you felt any cultural pressures on your relationship in Canada?
Me in Canada, I'm gonna say not really. Like from Canadian, I'm gonna say no. I can't see anything. I mean, we've had people make comments at us in the street, then they saw us together, but it was like nice things.
Oh.
You guys are gonna make pretty babies, like things like
That's
that.
good.
Like, I haven't,
Okay.
like in that context of Canada, personally, I'm gonna say no. I haven't felt any sort of pressure like that from
Yeah.
actual Canada.
Canadian culture have any pressures on us, but I think if we live in Senegal or if we live in Vietnam, that will be a different story.
In what way, Alice?
And the way is like how people perceive that I'm with a person with different race, and especially not white people, the black, which is very, I have to say, very rare in Vietnam. And also, I feel one of the things that I might think of, it would be financial pressures, because in my culture, men is the one who provide the most. If we need to buy a car,
Okay.
or we need to buy like a house,
Okay.
then obviously men will be the one who have to contribute more and pay for the most of it, or maybe even 100%.
Okay.
Rather than here, mostly I would say that we contribute like equally.
Okay.
Okay.
What
Ekta
about
and
you,
Royce.
Ekta?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think for me, and very similar to what Alice just said, I come from a very patriarchal culture where the decision-making power is with the man. So even if the women are working and contributing, like Alice said, like if there is a car that needs to be bought, like the man is going to decide what the car is going to be and when to buy it, kind of a thing. The other challenge I think I've had is a lot of the Indian community, in my experience, are a lot more sort of Indian in Canada in terms of even like their religious beliefs
Oh, okay.
and a lot of the rituals they follow, like
Customs.
the customs, they're a bit even stricter than my family would be back in India.
Oh,
Yeah, and so when you meet a lot of Indian like immigrants who live in Canada, it's kind of challenging to have a slight liberal approach to things because
oh,
they don't expect that from you. They want you to retain your Indianness and your culture even more. It has become a challenge to connect to certain people who are from your own community, from the same culture, but still, it's always like, I'm not Indian enough for them.
oh,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
Yeah.
Royce, you have anything to add?
Sure. I individually get this a lot when I say my name is Royce, and they're like, "What's your real name?" And I'm like, "That is my real name." Because a lot of
I'm so
people in
sorry.
Canada associate Indian names with the typical Hindu names, maybe, or Punjabi names.
Yeah.
See.
And I'm from a minority religion, Christianity in India. And so
Mm-hmm.
they think I probably, like many others, anglicized my name when I moved here.
Yeah.
but
The
it
other,
still is a challenge because my grandmom can't still say your name.
no,
Like
Aw.
she never. A lot of my relatives, like his name is too English for them. They just can't say it.
yeah.
Uh,
And the
well,
other,
most of all of your families, from what I understand, are back in your heritage countries, right? So how do you navigate community and finding a support network without those family members, without those strong friendships where you feel like you can rest and you can like, navigate life's decisions?
For me, I know that there's lots of people here try to find groups or whatever, maybe with people that come from your country or whatever. I know like a lot of immigrants do that here, but me, I've never really been into doing that because I guess I just like to figure it out. Just a personal choice. The close friends we have, that's who when we need something, that's more where who we're gonna rely on. We're lucky enough to have close the circle of friends that we could ask these things for when we need to. But I wouldn't say that we are looking for this support. And I think it's the same for you.
Yeah, I think it's the same for me. For 10 years that I've been here, I only know one Vietnamese girl that I've been close with, and was still talking to her, and we not even come from the same city or same region in Vietnam. But yeah, it's the same for me. I don't reach help from our community here, and whenever I go home, the one of the most questions that I get from people, do you know any Vietnamese people there? Are there a lot of Vietnamese people there? I was like, yeah, I only know one person. I would say that we have many great friends like you guys and others that we consider them as family.
Yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be people come from the same cultures,
Yeah.
same nationality to make family and friends.
What about you, Ekta and Royce?
when it comes to community, I would say when I first moved to Toronto, I was a student back then, 10 years ago, I really struggled to make friends.
Oh.
I just didn't meet like-minded people, even though I was surrounded by other Indian students.
Mhm.
I probably had two, three friends who I just connected with and met up on some weekends. However, that all changed when I moved to Victoria because one, I think it really helped having Ekta here as an anchor because I met all of you wonderful people. That's
Yes,
one.
you became one of the ins. Yeah, you're
Yeah,
part of the
kind of
group.
took me,
Yeah.
it kind of took me under your wing. I remember there was a Christmas party that that your class had, and that was the first time I saw all of you.
She used me
My husband
to
did too.
make
I
friends
didn't
in
know.
Canada.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, Andrea, your husband, Mark, is my is my kind of like my go-to when all of you meet. So,
Yeah.
I,
Yeah.
but
He's
I
the
think
outsider. Yeah.
but I think also we have a really good community in Victoria because we ended up just organically meeting so many different people, and
Mm-hmm.
that started off where we met people from many different nationalities. We've branched out to try and make friends, and that's been kind of eye-opening because it is challenging.
Mhm.
You can feel quite lonely in a city after a while, and it's hard when you don't have a university or a college to go to where you're meeting people. And so then how do you meet people? You can say Facebook groups, but that's hard. You have to really push yourself.
Mhm.
So
Yeah.
I think we're
Yeah.
pretty privileged that way, that we have a great community here.
Yeah, and I just want to add, sometimes I feel like our needs with the community keep changing as well. We're pregnant and now we're gonna have a baby, like things change. Royce and I are aware that we want to reach out to more moms and dads out there,
Yeah.
like maybe just broaden kind of our community, and because now yeah, just resources, just people who might know what we might be going through will be able to support us better. There are times where it's very challenging, it's very lonely, and then sometimes we feel very fulfilled. And there are days we feel like, oh wow, like we have it, we have so many people that love us. And then there are days where it's like, oh, nobody's even asking.
Yeah. Yeah. The ebb and flow of it. Yeah. It's not
Yeah. So,
consistent.
So
Yeah.
it's kind of been what we've, yeah.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a
But
very
it's good.
common immigrant kind of experience. This kind
Mhm.
of up and downs of feeling that sometimes you have great circles, a community with you. Sometimes you feel just, have that kind of waves of loneliness. I think that's a very common experience. Because
Yeah.
at least I personally also go through that. Even though I know, like in my core, that I have great community, but sometimes you can avoid to feel that loneliness when it hits you.
Right. And I think Canadian culture too is very passive. I have felt, even as an American moving here, it's harder to depend on someone's solid word. Like if a Canadian born person is like, yeah, let's meet up, it's like it doesn't happen because they don't necessarily mean it. And so
Yeah.
I feel like we have to find people who are willing to be more direct and like honest. And that I think sometimes that the communication piece can be really tricky to navigate.
I
But
think you also like go back to what have been talked about so many times about being individualistic and collective. I think believe in both in India, in Vietnam, Senegal too, is a definitely way more collective kind of culture. I think for us, we expect when we talk community, we usually have a different expectation what community is for us and how it fulfills us. And then I think in a individualistic kind of culture, community usually means different things, or how everyone operates in this community also, different than
Mhm.
from a collective culture.
Yeah.
And I think that's also part of it. Also, I think that also contributes part of, the loneliness that sometimes we feel.
Mhm.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
that's
100%
true.
Yeah.
But I just want to add that, I mean, in my experience as a new mom, to be mom, it's honestly been a great experience also because I feel like there are so many women out there that do not have that family and that community
Yeah.
in
Mm-hmm.
Canada, whereas in India, I feel there is really like so many women around, like aunties and your grandmoms, and here there aren't. And so on social media, like the people that I have connected with, and the amount of support that they're ready to provide other moms and understand, like, really empathize with each other and look out for each other is amazing.
I think that also means you have to reach out, right? You have to be able to reach
Yeah,
out for those helps and for those advice and for those connection as
for
well.
sure.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So,
Mhm.
but that also, I think that's very encouraging to hear too for people out there. There's
Yeah.
always people and resources there for you. You only need to
Mhm.
ask. Yeah.
It's not
The,
easy to ask for help.
Yeah,
There
it
the
are
is
only
not
people
easy.
that you need support. So
Yeah.
the only community where I'm like, yeah, this is great, is the whole like immigration PR That, yes. I'm in a group.
Yes.
I'm in a
We
group. I was in
need,
a group when I
yeah.
was doing my postgraduate work permit and PR, and that has been absolutely fantastic because the Canadian government website is terrible. There's
Yeah.
a lot
It
of things
is.
there.
IRCC, if you're listening, take some
So
note.
if you're listening, yes, somebody needs to redo that website. It's terrible. I was able to teach other people and actually
Yeah.
literally help them. It's like, oh, this is how you.
You
This is how
did,
you do it.
yeah. You
I
helped me.
remember. I remember. I don't know who it was, but then I just ended up helping people because I knew exactly that they were not gonna find the information on the website. So
Yeah.
that community, I like. Yes, that one. I'm like, yes, this is great. Like
Yeah.
I feel at home here. This is fantastic.
No, I mean,
Yes.
but that's the integration experience, right? Like it's navigating all of these nuances. That is the complexity of integration and adaptation too, right? To Canadian
Mhm, mhm.
culture.
We also have another question for you guys is now that you visit home, has anything changed for you, the dynamic with you and your family now?
People
Relationship?
saying, "Oh, you're kind of Canadian," you know, like I get that. They're like, you don't have to
You
say
know what?
sorry.
I got it from my aunt.
Did you?
Yes,
Oh,
so I came
yeah.
back, we came back from Vietnam recently, and I came visit all my aunties' house and stuff. And honestly, I keep complaining. My aunt was made a comment. Oh, look at you! You came to Canada for so long, you came back and you complain. And so I just told her like it's not about complaining, but I mean, I get used to the life here, and the dynamic change, and I just stated the fact.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
Obviously, I'm complaining, but I'm accepting all of that because I also used
Yeah.
Right.
so
Yeah.
It's just a new, it's a new,
Yeah.
adapt a new way of life. CB, what about you? How's you and your family?
Me, I'm gonna say not really because I grew up in Europe most of my life. I didn't grow up in Africa. It was just like in Senegal in my household. When we went last year for my sister's wedding, it was great. I love going back and seeing most of my family. Was traveling back in the summer, so everybody was there. So it was nice, but I don't really get like Alice, for example, like the
Not a lot of
The
notable
change.
differences.
There's so much.
Yeah. What about you, Ekta and Royce? Yeah.
Yeah, for me, the usual stuff. You go and you're meeting your friends, and then you complain about the traffic or the pollution or whatever, and everyone's kind of rolling their eyes. Um, I try to be mindful, even though I know that even if I lived in India, and if I would have, I would have probably complained about the traffic and been like, oh my God, like so much traffic. But now, just because I'm from Canada, it's like, oh, Canadian.
You
So
were talking about, yeah.
Canadian.
Yeah. For me, a connection does look different. I think over the years, it's when India for me now is a lot to do with family, and it's
Mhm.
become less about friends because I can't really connect too much with those friends, and the way of thinking perspectives are so different now that there's a disconnect, and it saddens me, and I see there's an effort from my friends and from my side to keep that alive. But I think as years pass by, and when I go to India, that's looking more and more different. So I think I've turned into this hybrid version of myself after I left, that
Yeah.
I don't fully identify with the culture here. I don't fully identify with the culture in my home country.
There.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a weird limbo. Before I was very uncomfortable with it, but now I think I've gotten used to the fact that's the new me. And
Mhm.
I'm
That's the
fine.
immigrant story.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
is the immigrant story. Yeah.
Yeah.
That you're neither there nor here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. No,
I
it's
think that's the
interesting. My brother recently we were talking about the election, and he's like, "Well, this is how I vote for my country because America's my country."
Ooh.
And I was like, "Okay, well, I feel responsibility to both." You know, I feel like that you're always
Mhm.
navigating what's
Yeah.
happening at home with your present circumstances, you know, and
Yeah.
that is a very tricky space because what happens back at home impacts you, but no one really understands in Canada necessarily what is happening back there and how that's impacting you. And so it is always just this like duality of like identities, you know, you're not this or that, you're everything, you know, in between.
Yeah.
And people don't
Yeah.
necessarily understand that.
And the sad thing is, like, sometimes we don't even have to go to our home countries to feel that. It's now the internet, right? Like
Yeah.
posting anything on Instagram about, say, Indian politics, you know that there are some people who are like, oh, well, now you're a Canadian citizen, like, you shut up.
Yeah, it's a bit of they judge you because you're in another
Yeah.
place, and even though you see things differently, it's like, well, your opinion doesn't have any credibility because really you're now in Canada, you know?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
Yeah.
Same from with my family. Now that I'm also like a citizen, and everything I said, if my mom does not agree, she always use that as like a argument to against me. Oh, you don't agree with me because you're not like Chinese anymore.
Mhm.
And then I was like, oh,
Yeah.
then I can ever argue with you if that's always. I am Chinese culturally. I still identify as Chinese.
Definitely.
Maybe a whole different passport that does not, that's not all that I am. I don't think my
Right.
passport can define how I identify, right, necessarily.
Mhm.
But yes, we have also one last question for all of you. Is there any advice for those who are married here or in a long-term committed relationship in Canada that finds it difficult to navigate a culture together?
I think just going back to the conversation that we were having, I think that's been a very important piece for me, and that is really reaching out to people. I know we have, especially the countries like the collectivist countries, that cultures that we come from, we have this kind of programming where we do see Western communities and cultures as very cold. And I know, I mean, it is to a large extent. It's harder to connect with people here. People are very individualist and all of that. But at the same time, in my experience, there is still a lot of hope and really reaching out to people. There are people just like you. There's so many immigrants. I mean, Canada is full of it.
Yeah, full of
Um,
immigrants.
and everybody is kind of somewhere in the same boat,
Yeah.
wanting to connect with people, looking for resources. Maybe they're in their PR process. Maybe they are into parenthood and they don't know what the hospital process is and what to pack in their hospital bag because it's so different in their country.
Yeah.
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 Yeah, I would agree, although I would gravitate to also disagreeing, but I struggle with putting myself out there and being vulnerable to try and like, oh, this is the page that I'm on, and it's harder for me. But if you have a partner who does that, then kind of feed off that energy. And
Totally. Yes.
Again,
Lean in.
using me.
that's my motto.
True love.
But then again, also I think there are some things like you always have your individual personalities. Like for me, I love football. I refuse to call it by the other name.
Soccer.
Soccer.
It is football.
But that's a passion of mine. I mean, gravitate towards your passions or your interests so you feel more comfortable. You don't have to go with an intention of I'm gonna reach out. I've made a couple of friends just by going and being a part of a tournament and a team. Yeah. So maybe if it's an instrument or if you like, I don't know, whatever, it could be blue skies, so many things.
Cricket.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Alice and Siby.
I think from my point of view, I think trust and respect your partner, religion's personality, and also go as a flow. You don't have to do things as other people because you think it's work for you, because different people have a different situation sometimes, and the way you navigating depend on your situation. Don't expect them to do things as you expect. You might get disappointed because you think, oh, in my culture, people would do like that. Don't expect too much, but don't hesitate to reach out if you have any question, because obviously there are a lot of great people out there that are willing to help and give you all kind of information and all the help that you need. Yeah.
CB?
Go back to what Alice said. I think just understanding that you really need to be like a team, like really have a strong partnership is key, because you have to both, shoot in the same direction and be on the same page and all this stuff, because it's you and then there's like the
Everyone
outside
else.
world
Yeah.
and everyone else. There's so many variables outside. So the one you can control is
You too, yeah.
it's you too.
Your partner, yeah.
So
Yeah.
so I think focusing on that and making sure that's strong is gonna facilitate anything.
Thank you all so much, because that's all very encouraging. I think the strength of your relationship sounds like that's what keeps you navigating the unknown and navigating a new
The
future.
support, yeah.
Yeah.
So get on
because-
that dating app.
Yeah, exactly.
Come to Canada.
Yeah.
Find that person.
Ask that
Find that
person
person
out in the
first.
cafeteria or, yeah, exactly.
Or in
Yeah.
your school.
Yeah. This has been such a good conversation, and I love having all of my wonderful friends here. So it's just been so nice listening. And we're going to wrap it up with a quiz, Canadian salad pop quiz, where Hoshin and I ask a question. No one's been prepared for what the question or answer is. So Ekta, Royce, Alice, and Siby, I would love for all of you to take a guess at what the answer is, and we'll reveal the answer at the end. So, Hoshin, would you like to go first?
Yeah, as my question is, I think my question is fun. What the question is, what is the average wedding budget in Canada?
Budget, or like how much weddings
Spend,
on
yeah,
average
how much
cost?
spend? How much
Oh, okay.
cost? Yeah, average
Okay.
wedding.
Okay.
How much average wedding cost
30.
is in Canada?
20,000.
30K,
20, okay, and then CD,
Okay.
what's yours?
30K.
30?
Yeah, I would say around 50. Also depends who's paying for it.
Well,
No, average in
I
Canada.
said average.
Right.
Average.
I would say 35.
35. Okay, you have 20, 30, 50, and 35. The closest to the answer is CB. Ding, 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 ding. It's 29,000 based on,
Wow.
yeah, 29,000 based on
Wow.
2019 Global Wedding Report in Canada.
The
average
global
weddings,
wedding report. Interesting.
yeah, they did so many, like a list of countries, and Canada is one of the
Wow.
lists.
Interesting.
Yeah, and in average, Canadians spend about 29,000 on a wedding.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well, my wedding was way cheaper because we had no money, but that's okay.
Also, you didn't make that in Canada.
We
in
didn't
the
I
even
didn't.
have
States.
one, guys. We didn't even have one.
No, I know.
Yes.
Yet.
The best.
Yeah.
Well, to be honest, we didn't have the what is it called? What is it called? Like the normal wedding have to go receptions kind of thing?
Reception, yeah.
Yeah, but we do have a religious wedding back home that the both family did it. So
Okay, like a close,
and
yeah, just a
I think
close.
for them that is more
Yeah, it
important
was.
than
Yeah.
the actual one that you do here, like the one in India.
That's why, I mean, like Andrea was saying this at the beginning of the call, but like that you think of us as married, like I refer to her as my wife. So that people,
Yeah.
she calls me my
Yeah.
husband. I mean,
Yeah.
at this point, like it's just, it's a piece of paper right now
Yeah.
for us.
Sure.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah. I hear
So,
ya.
Yeah, like a
Mhm.
marriage is like, you build a life together, you have children, you buy a
Yeah.
home, that's what
I
marriage is.
mean, yeah,
Yeah.
I don't think a wedding defines your relationship status, obviously.
It's
No.
on Instagram.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Well, okay. So my question actually does relate to marriage. So, question: what type of marriage is considered illegal for immigrants in Canada?
Illegal?
What type of
What type?
marriage?
I don't know.
For
Like,
immigrants
A live-in
specifically,
relationship for Indians.
Polygamous, maybe?
Polygamous? I don't know. That's not what that's not what the answer that I have.
Well,
I have no idea.
how do they call it? The marriage that you try to do the PR, so you can do.
Oh, like fake,
like a
like
fake marriage
sponsorship?
for green
Like a
marriage.
sham. No.
marriage for citizenship, yeah.
Anyone else have a guess?
What
Ooh.
is illegal?
Illegal for immigrants.
Illegal. Yeah. I would say Canadian-born people as well.
Oh, married to a
But
minor.
immigrants would do this more.
Arranged marriage.
No, that's not
Oh yeah,
illegal.
minor. I would. That would be my guess.
It's like
Uh,
a buy, like a
Under
bought bride.
16.
I'm
I don't know.
sure that, I mean, there's probably, conditions around how age. Well, a virtual marriage.
Virtual marriage.
Virtual. So during the pandemic, a lot of people,
Zoom, got
know,
married on Zoom.
they got married on Zoom, and there was a big question: does that count? Does that count? And so actually, IRCC got in, and they said the only way that would count is if you had like a legal representative during the Zoom call because they were worried about a lot of forced marriage, that kind of a thing. So they didn't want to make that happen during the pandemic. So virtual marriage can happen, like a virtual ceremony, but it has to be done by a legal representative. And the couple has had to have lived together for at least 12 consecutive months. This is an article that came out of the Canadian Immigrant newspaper. I'll include the link on the website. But yes, virtual marriages. So
Oh,
if you got
interesting.
married via Zoom or YouTube, I don't know that would
Oh,
work. So
interesting.
anyway,
I didn't
that's
know
my
either.
question.
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Wow.
Well,
Thank you so
thank you
much for
all.
the
Yes.
conversation.
Yes. Yeah. It
It's
was really
definitely
fun having you
enlightening.
all here.
It was
And
awesome.
yeah.
Thank you so much for
Yeah.
having us. Are we celebrities now?
Absolutely.
Thank
Well,
you, guys.
yes, I will say we'll find out. I hope so. You should all be celebrities. And everyone stay tuned to highlight International Women's Day. We're going to talk with international moms who have been in Canada and navigating parenting and what that's been like for them. So please stay tuned for our next episode. And thank you so much for listening.
As you can find us on Instagram, Canadian Salad, or you can just email us, hello@canadiansalad.ca.
Yeah, let us hear your story about your relationships and all the juicy
Exactly.
deets. Yeah.
And we'll see you next week.
All right. Take care, everyone.
Okay. Bye.
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 Canadian Salad is written and produced in British Columbia, Canada by Hostion and Andrea McCoy. Theme music is by Naver Avetyan from Pixabay.
This has been a good Drinklin production.